Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. In this daily editorial, I am introducing a new company to the show. The company is Giyani Metals, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol EMM and on the OTC markets under the symbol CATPF. I am chatting with the president and CEO, Danny Keating. Now, Giyani Metals is focused in Botswana on magnesium oxide assets. The company has its flagship K.Hill Project that already has a PEA on it that was released mid this year. And the company is currently in construction of a demonstration plant to provide samples for potential offtake partners and just show that the overall production and operation plans here work for this asset. The resource was most recently updated before that PEA. I'll get Danny to take us through all of these key fundamental factors for the company and then also discuss what investors can look forward to. So Danny, because this is the first time having you and the company on the show, give us a little background on this K.Hill project, please, in Botswana.
Sure, Corey, thanks very much for having me on. And I'm kind of going through, I started with the company in April, so I kind of looked at it in maybe the same eyes as you and some of your listeners are, trying to understand what the key drivers are. And I think when I look at it, the first place I started was the overall thematic of what high purity manganese is. What is this sort of material? And the most important thing about it is it's linked with the massive growth that we're seeing in EV cars and the demand that we're seeing going forward. You know, forecasts for EV cars into 2030 with the net zero effects that are coming in are astounding. And where does manganese fit in? Well, the manganese is very important in the batteries that are going to drive all these EV cars. It's very important in stabilizing the nickel in some of the chemistries. And the most important part that's coming in now more in terms of this battery technology is what they call range anxiety. People who want to be able to plug their cars in and drive for 300 or 400 miles like they did with their big SUVs and the like. And the manganese is a huge component in that. So before we saw chemistries that maybe excluded manganese or had very little manganese, but the new chemistries now all include manganese. So what we're looking at in a thematic, and your listeners will be always looking at what's the revenue line here. We're seeing an increase in EV cars, so units of manganese required. We've got an increase in the intensity of use of this product, which also is a second driver. And the third driver in this industry is that up until recently, 93 or more than 90% of this product was produced in China. So there's very, very little Western or non-Chinese production. So in a world of IRA, in a world where the European Union and other producers are very conscious, not so much about China, but about a single supplier of product and diversifying their supply chains, we're looking at a commodity or a product which not only benefits from the EV revolution, the increasing intensity of that manganese use, and the fact that you've got to build all these plants outside of China to meet the demand. And so, you know, I'll take you through the Botswana project we have, but that was where I started as an overall thematic, which means we really do have in my view, a rocket in terms of a revenue line, and it's developing well. And so that's the starting point of the thematic.
Let's talk about the resource then, because there is a huge increase in the overall resource that was released mid this year. Is a 310% increase in the resource. Take us through, again, this overall resource as it is published now.
Yeah, so we had great news through the year. So historically, we had a smaller resource. We were always conscious that we had about 2 million tons of indicated and some inferred 3 million. So it was a relatively small deposit. And through obviously doing some exploration, we went down dip. This is still very all open pit. So when I say, it's all very shallow material. It's oxide. It's near the surface. And we were able to sort of put out that statement in about June of this last year, 300% increase. So we now increased the indicated to 8 million tons and even more inferred. And we can drill further. This is probably open at depth. So we're very comfortable that there's more. We were very conscious at the time, just to give your listeners a bit of background. We did complete a feasibility study last year, but it was on the initial resource, which was the smaller resource, and it constrained the business in the sense of the original feasibility study was only for about 15 years. And we were very conscious in the market that off-takers, customers, this is an industry where they want to plug in for 30 years, 40 years. When you're building car plants, you're building battery plants, you need to know that there's a long-term security of supply. So we recognize that as a critical issue that we needed to address. And we were able to do that in June by tripling the resource. We then wanted to characterize, what does this mean? Because when you put out a resource statement, it's flash, 300% increase, but what does it mean for the economics? And so we ran a quick PEA through that to sort of demonstrate, what this means for the project. We used a lot of the same flow sheet, same recoveries. We didn't try and change anything. We just wanted to show what the new resource impact was. And sure enough, the NPV of the project shot up past $1 billion base case, $1 billion US, that is. So that's a 1.3 billion in Canadian dollars. So that was exceptional. We got a good IRR, it's about 29% on the project. But most importantly, we have a low capex. We have a capex that's about 280 million, 284. And in a world where we're looking and saying, can junior miners develop projects and take them forward? I think that capex number is vital. Is that fundable? I think in that space, that's a fundable capex. So, the PA demonstrated some fantastic economics for us. And we've even got a base, this extended the life, as I mentioned, from about 15 years. We're now at 57 years of life. So we then, as we're doing the study, realized, well, wow, that's astounding, maybe a bit too long. So we then sort of ran an upside case and sort of double production, because if we develop this project, if we're able to take it forward, if we're able to lock in with the customers, the OEMs, the Fords, the Teslas of the world, they're going to want to know that when their market expands, that we can expand with them, we can maintain our market share. So we looked at a doubling of the plant. CapEx goes from that 284. We staged it. We still have that initial capital, and we'd have some brownfields capital. And again, we boost the NPV up, to 1.5 billion, almost $2 billion Canadian. Fantastic returns on that. IRR goes above 30%. So the PEA was a fantastic sort of demonstration of really what we're sitting on at K.Hill.
Yeah, let's go through those economics a little bit more. You did take us through some of those key numbers. One thing to note, too, is that NPV number, it's done at an 8% discount rate. The post-tax IRR, 29%. Now, you did mention that project life of 57 years, but going through that upside case, well, then you can double production, it sounds like. Where do you go from here in terms of economics? Do you go into, let's say, a pre-feasibility study, or is it now a focus on this demonstration plant to simply get some samples into potential offtakes?
That's exactly it. It's a demonstration plant, which we've been pushing forward through this year. We've been working very much on a financing, and I'll come back to that because we had a fantastic announcement last week around financing. But the plan with that money is to finalize the demonstration plant, get into a position where we're issuing product to customers. This is an industry where the product specification is incredibly high, very, very specific in terms of obviously going into the battery chemistry. And customers want to sort of have multiple rounds of receiving samples, testing, making sure that we can convert what is ore in the ground, and making sure that through our process, we're consistently able to deliver this high quality, high specification product that then they can test not only in their own part of the process, but then also to their customers. Everyone, it goes down the chain from them to their customers all the way through to the car companies. So making sure this will perform. There's a huge amount of accreditation that you go through, not only checking that you can deliver the product consistently, but also that you're the right kind of company, that you've got the right ESG credentials, that you've got the right supporters, backers, and that they can lock in on that basis and know that you're a long-term partner for them. So the demonstration plant is a fundamental in terms of a strategic advantage for us to be able to put that in place and engage directly with off-takers. Them also being able to see that our process that we're going through, it's a hydromet process. It's something that we're developing. We're very proud that this is going to sort of take from ore all the way through to this high purity manganese. It's an exceptional process, and so that we can test that. So overall, we're looking and saying this totally gives us the opportunity to de-risk what would be, when you come to project financing and banks and investors are looking and they're saying, have you got your customers at hand? Yes. Have they seen and tested the product? Have you got offtake agreements? Yes. And that's the process we can go through. Does your process work? Have you demonstrated it through 1,000 hours of operating and making sure that it's robust? The engineering is sound. Yes, we do. So the demonstration plant is a huge step forward for any company that's in the battery space, and absolutely critical for us to deliver that next year.
So you did mention that financing announced November 30th. The company secured a US $16 million development financing from IDC. How much does that get you through the construction of the demonstration plant then?
Yeah, a long way. We've putting a whole package together of 26 million. So part of the announcement was another 10. We're just trying to conclude that. We're in final sort of documentation phase. Lawyers are backwards and forwards. So we want that whole package in place. And that effectively takes us all the way through to what we expect to be sort of a financial investment decision, FID. That's the task. So we want to complete the demonstration plant, which I've spoken to you about, all our permits and licensing in Botswana. And I'll talk to you a bit more about Botswana because it's a tremendous jurisdiction. But getting through that process there, we also then, what we'll do is we're conscious that our feasibility PA, all of our technical numbers need an update because we'll have a lot of data that comes out of the demonstration plant, informs us on a lot of, sizing of vessels, tanks, everything that goes into the plant. We'll have to update those. So we're going to run what we call an optimized feasibility study, or it's where we can incorporate all of those learnings from the demonstration plant, incorporate the new MRE, that additional resource that hasn't been included in a full feasibility study yet. So we get that full life that comes through, and just make sure that all the data, all the costs, all the information is fresh. We're in an inflationary environment and people want to see, the latest numbers. We're confident that our feasibility study and all our data was done historically just in the back end of COVID. So there were some high numbers that we had to sort of put in there because of COVID had distorted things. So we're quite comfortable that we will have some swings and roundabouts, but we can still come out with the same sort of capital. But that's our intention, is to then develop that optimized feasibility study, deliver it to the lenders who can then look and see and know exactly that they have a lot of confidence in the costs, a lot of confidence in the OPEX alongside the demonstration plan.
So as you progress through this consistent de-risking on it sounds like many different fronts, as you are fairly far advanced here, how long would construction take when you do get the financing, when you do have the feasibility out? Any time frame guidance you can give us there?
Yeah, so in terms of what we're targeting, it's a 15-month program. So by end of Q1 of 2025, we're targeting to have completed, our demonstration plant, had all of the product out and be close to offtake agreements. We're dealing with a third party here, so the timeframes are also I'm at the mercy of the customer, but that's what we're trying to do. That gives us 9 months to a year to do that. So we're quite comfortable that we have quite a bit of time built in that. Concurrent, then we'll just do the optimized feasibility study, delivering that by the end of Q1 2025. And then, as I said, on the environmental mining license side in Botswana, making sure that we move forward with all our permits and licensing side of things, and making sure that we arrive at that sort of point of in 2025 of having all of the key components that a project financing needs: offtake agreements, feasibility, demonstration plant that is de-risk the project, permits and licensing. And so hopefully we're at that point where we're ready to sort of look to finalize the capital that we need to go forward and build the plant.
Let's talk about Botswana a little bit and some of the permits, any other factors that investors need to consider with your flagship project here, your whole focus being in Botswana.
Yeah, and I think the resource is there. Obviously, it's an oxide and it's at surface, so that makes the actual mining part of this relatively straightforward. I think my experience of Botswana has been superb. I think they were just recently rated by the Fraser Institute as the second best mining jurisdiction in the world. That's certainly been my experience of it so far. A government that has, and let's be honest, across the world in mining, governments aren't always as welcoming of mining projects. But I think the Botswanan experience with mining, given their diamond background and the few projects they have there was a big copper project that was recently acquired and sold, Khoemacau, for $1.8 billion. So there's big mining projects in the country, and the influence of mining has been very positive for the country. It provides jobs, it provides security, it's been safe, it's been well run. And so the Botswanan experience of mining is fantastic. So they're very welcoming, very supportive. We recently had discussions with the Minister of Mines, and the President announced in his State of the Nation address that he wanted to see our mining license application in by the end of the year, which we were delighted to hear, but obviously put the pressure on us. But it also certainly put a lot of jolt into the administration, and I dare say we're sort of moving in that direction. A very positive response from the Department of Environment and from the mining ministries to make sure that they meet those kind of timelines from the President. So it's been a good experience in Botswana itself. And we also have a few more exploration opportunities. We've got 2,000 square kilometers of land to explore. So it's a huge acreage. We have the K.Hill Project, which we've explored. We know there's an extension. We've got two other projects, Otse and Labatse in particular, where we want to do some extra exploration. We think there's some higher grades in those. We need to go and test those. So we're kind of a bit at the moment spoiled for choice in terms of certainly length of mine we certainly have and resource, but we want to go and see if we can find maybe some sweetness for the overall project as we move forward.
Okay, I was going to ask you about exploration upside, but you took us there already. And again, I think it's important for everyone to know that the focus really is on this demonstration plant and moving forward that K.Hill project. Let's get a quick little management team overview. First, Danny, yourself, your background in especially the resource sector, and just a comment on the team that you have put together, since team is so important when you're moving into more of this construction and production situation.
Yeah, so my background is a mining engineer, started out in mining in South Africa, and then graduated through different parts of business development and sort of also have a finance background. So I kind of have the blend of the two, good engineering, done a lot of project management, but then also spent some time. I worked for Anglo American for a number of years, but then also spent some time in the city in London, got some sort of experience as research analysts and corporate finance. So I've kind of worked in a lot of different parts of the industry, kind of understand all the different aspects. And then as CEO, I've run a number of projects through West Africa and now obviously in Botswana and have good experience across Africa. A lot of my focus over my life has been in Africa. So I think in terms of the team that we're trying to put together and bringing is first and foremost to put it as close to the ground and where the projects are. When you're in study phase, you can have people all around the world, but when you start getting into building demonstration plants and executing in Botswana, we want people close to the ground. So building the capacity within Botswana itself. It's a country that has a tremendous amount of mining, geology, and processing skills. So we're going to gather those up, and that's our first use. Obviously, we need to make sure that we're employing local Botswanans as a priority. And then the demonstration plant, which is located in Johannesburg, we have a team down there, and we're making sure that we're building, the right kind of engineering capability that can then transfer all of that knowledge and that plant into the build when we go up into Botswana. So it's on the ground people, principally around a lot of process engineering people, but a good spread. We know as a junior we have to have a core kind of management team that's able to be flexible, manage the consulting groups that we have as they come and go. But build a core of knowing that within the Southern African region, we have the right processing, mining, geology sort of team that can execute. And a lot of work also within Botswana in terms of being able to manage our social environmental responsibilities there with our local team and also our ESG lead who make sure that we follow the IFC performance standards, which is very important to meet those international standards and make sure we're operating in the best fashion in terms of the social environmental aspects that we need to adhere to.
All right, Danny, I think that takes us through a lot of an overview, at least, of this project and company. Let's wrap up with a quick, look ahead to Newsflow. What should investors be focused on as we move into 2024, Newsflow-wise, out of the company?
So the first and foremost is the completion of the funding and financing, which should be is imminent, and we want to get that under our belts. So then that enables us to move forward. We're looking to sort of have instances where you start to see first delivery of product into the customers and that sort of process, that commissioning of that demonstration plant, getting the product through to the customers, securing and making the mining license application and getting a good response from government, obviously in a timely fashion. We're hoping to complete our permits and licensing in less than a year. That's our target. I think if your listeners think about how that factors against other countries and the length of time, I think you'll find that's pretty quick. So that's another key data point for us. And then as we kick off on the feasibility study, we might have some results that come through from there that we can share as we move forward.
All right, Danny, thank you very much for this introduction. I will post a link to the Giyani Metals website and the company's corporate presentation. So please, everyone listening, go have a read over that. Send me any questions you have for Danny and the team over at Giyani Metals, and I'll follow up as it sounds like we could get some more financing news and also any advancements on the demonstration plant. Danny, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate this introduction.
Wonderful, Corey. Thanks for having me.